Hello everyone and welcome to the 365 pod. Today we are joined by Fiona Wise. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming on, Fiona. Tell us a little bit about, and your listeners, about yourself. Your current situation as well with your injury. and then we can get straight into the pod. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Fiona.
No, thank you so much, Imogen, for inviting me along to your infamous podcast, which I'm really delighted to be here. So I am Fiona Wise, for anybody who doesn't know me. I live in the southeast of England, so in a place called Early, which is just outside of Reading. 10 minutes drive to Microsoft is normally the one I say for everybody to sort of know location-wise. A bit about me. So I'm a proud mum of an 18-year-old called Jake, who's just finishing his BTEC in business and finance. I think they call it level 3 or something now. I'm wife to my husband, Andy. But I think, as you just mentioned, I'm not very a current active wife right now because, as you say, I have a very nice big, oh no, you can't see it on here, but let's just say. But yeah, there's a big boot under this. Just no, thankfully nobody can see it. So it's probably a good thing, to be fair. But yeah, I sadly broke my ankle. And for anybody who knows me, there was no alcohol involved this time. And but yeah, in a freak accident on the very early hours of Good Friday, in fact it was. So about 3 weeks ago. Had a high fever at night, got out of bed, must have passed out, woke up with my ankle facing the other direction. So enough said, let's say. So I'm very much laid up, doing very well. I say do very little, but literally working with my leg up and running around with a chair. I wouldn't say running, but you know what, wheeling maybe.
Yeah, wheeling. I did just spot Fiona wheeling across her home office at the minute as well, guys. It was a sight to see. So, but yeah, thank you so much for obviously taking time, because obviously in the heat as well, having the boot and things. So we really appreciate you sitting down with us this afternoon. Yeah. But yeah, so the reason I really wanted to speak to you, Fiona, is obviously we know each other from various conferences, and then we got to really know each other. I think it was Directions last year on the route to the party on the Thursday night, and that was so fun. But I just think you've achieved so much, and a lot of the people we have on the podcast have come from not the stereotypical background, and they've ended up in tech, and obviously you've achieved so much founding your own company. So how about you share with us a little bit about your early career path, starting from college, perhaps?
Oh gosh, now we're talking a long way back into here, someone. So probably before you were born. Okay, no, I'm not that old. But yeah, so if I take one step back just before college, because I think a lot of listeners will probably resonate with me from a school aspect. So I absolutely hated school, really did. And that was with a passion and from hatred, I guess, for it, because I was bullied through most of my school life, sadly. And I know a lot of people are knowing this. But as you can imagine, that was a tough time. So actually, when I finished school, I was like, get me out of here. Let's go to college. Let's start fresh. So people sort of got to know the real me and didn't associate me from back at the school. And there I did a BTEC in business and finance, because I always knew I'd probably want to go into finance I want to go into business as a career, but I didn't know what aspect. So it was obviously a broad course for me to be able to sort of find my feet. And see what sort of areas that really sort of, interested me in that perspective. And also, I guess from that part, once I finished college, and I did really well, actually, came out with a good qualification from it, lots of friends, but again, didn't know what I wanted to do after college. And I think a lot of youngsters have that moment where you're finishing college, finishing uni, and you've got all this anticipation and everyone's asking, what are you going to do when you grow up? And you're like, I do not know. Yeah. And that's really where I was. And you're nodding.
I mean, I'm 28 now and I still haven't got the clue what I need to do when I grow up. So I don't know when I can stop saying that sentence.
Me neither. So I guess the career path really from college didn't really get going. I mean, I used to have a few temping jobs like I did back then. You could get a temping job. I worked for various, I think the Prudential, which was a big employer back in the time in Reading. Yeah. I think everybody pretty much worked there at some point or another. And it ended up being, right, there's no job here at the minute that I really enjoy. So I decided to up sticks within probably 6-8 months of leaving college, and I went to America. So I packed my bags. I went to be an au pair with a family with 3 young children. I'd done very little babysitting before, so I decided to go, right, what the hell? What have I got to lose? And found myself living in Washington, D.C. and Long Island and New York for a year, and then travelled 13 months. I'm sorry, the 13th month I travelled around and did about 25 states and Mexico and Canada. So all by the time I was 19. So I think from that perspective, that was my initial before career starting. Yeah.
And I feel like, because I didn't go as an au pair, I did consider that route, but for my second year of university, I actually ended up going to uni in the States, right? So and I feel like, I guess that was another recommendation from anyone listening to this podcast. If your kids are unsure what to do, or, you're unsure what to do at this point, just push yourself out your comfort zone. And I'm not saying everyone go to America, but I really did discover a lot more about myself. And it really, at that age, I matured so much. I came back a totally different person because of the exposure. And there's so many different cultures in that country. State-wise is just so different. So do you find that, from my perspective, I honestly grew up so much. Did you find the same when you obviously went over there?
I think, you always think, don't you, when you leave college, you're quite grown up, until the reality is you're in the big wide world, and then you realise actually you weren't as grown up as you thought you were, and you suddenly have to, sort of have to make decisions quickly, and you haven't got necessarily your parents to fall back on at the time. So it was big decisions to be made, some right, some wrong. I found myself in the middle of Queens one time, getting the wrong train late at night, and thought I probably wouldn't ever come out of Queens in Manhattan, and moments where I had to think on my feet. Many scenarios, but I think you're right. I think actually traveling really does makes you grow up. It makes you appreciate other cultures, but also appreciate what you've got at home as well. And you can bring that back and then really take that into your life where you're going next, and what you want to be able to achieve from there onwards.
I think for me, it gave me a lot of confidence as well, which is why I feel now I can talk to anyone about anything. And I feel like you're probably I don't know if you had that beforehand, but it definitely kind of added the networking element to my personality, I guess you could say, when I went over there and did the same thing. It is intense when you look back at it. You think, I was 18, 19, packed a suitcase and moved to another country alone. I'd never even left the UK before. Like, what was I doing? Isn't it mental?
It is crazy. And I keep saying to my son, right, you're 18 now. You're pretty much at the age that I left to go across. But actually thinking of him going over there, I think he's so young. But, we were that age. And actually, it's not necessarily too young. I think it is a great opportunity for any youngster, and I'm always going to anybody young, travel while you can and get the opportunity to experience life, actually, because it's a long time working, and if you get the chance to be able to do something, if it's traveling or even working abroad, then just do it. As I say, just do it.
Just travel, do not get a mortgage, it's too stressful.
Yes, too stressful.
Don't do it. Well, from coming back from America and being an au pair and obviously traveling and things, when you got to the UK, did you have any intention or idea what you wanted to do with your career?
No, it was the same. I came back and landed and went, oh, no, now I've really got to look for a job. It's like, or do I go off again? But I think at that point, I realized I did. And I've always been a motivated person. I've always wanted to be able to do and achieve something. I just didn't know what it was at that age. And after a year out, as you say, you come back more confident. You're more sure of yourself. You may not know what you're looking for. And again, back then, it was a bit like falling into different type of temporary jobs. But then I did land myself a contract job back in the day. It was called Digital, and a lot of people back, probably more my age, who would remember Digital, was a hardware big centre, huge in Reading. That was called DEC, and there I just found myself in the IT world, and that was my first, I guess, stepping stone within IT when I was 19, 20 years old. And really from there, that is how things progressed, from myself loving the whole IT world, how fast-paced it was, how products and the diversity and how transformations of new products coming out at the speed of lightning. And it was just that moment I thought, oh, this is sort of fits with my personality. I like to move fast. I like to do things. I get bored, but you want to keep going. And that is really where and how everything sort of happened from there, from DEC or Digital, as they say. But I did have marketing jobs from there, and I think I tapped my sort of foot into different software industries after that. And marketing was the first thing after that, I think. I thought I'd give it a go. I really enjoyed it. I didn't find it as fast paced maybe as I liked. And then I got FOMO. I got FOMO, Imogen, at a very early age, and realised I wanted to be in sales because they looked like they were having so much more fun and they were earning more money than me and they got more recognition. So I thought, you know what, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I feel like although marketing do so much behind the scenes, it's always the sales people who get the pat on the backs and the bottles of champagne at the various events and things like that. And obviously they get the big parties because that's what salespeople tend to like.
I wanted all of that and more of it and more. So that was it.
Yeah, mental. I mean, so you ended up in the sales, and was that at the company in Reading?
Yeah, so that was a company in Reading, the marketing. But what I did, I couldn't move in that company to sales. So what my journey took me to was I spoke to a very good recruitment company, a really good chap there, who basically said, Fiona, you've got to start at the bottom if you want to go in sales. You can't just jump into this lovely lifestyle that you'll see they're all having right now. You've got to start rock bottom. And so I joined a company, which a lot of viewers will probably know and remember, called Tetra. So it's an ERP company called Tetra. And back in the day, they were huge, actually. Massive, before they were taken over by Sage. And I joined them as a telemarketing executive. So I was doing those 100 cold calls a day from every day for 9 months. I don't know how I survived it, to be honest. I was the only girl out of 10. All of them were guys, young guys, all thought they could do better than me. I secretly came in under the radar, and I just won monthly competitions. I won trips, the quarterly things. And I realized then, actually, I do like to win. So my desire to be at the top and my desire to be able to be successful really sort of shone through there. And I was fortunate to be made sort of the telemarketing deputy manager after there, and then Sage took over. So I sort of moved that's when my journey sort of moved for these acquisitions. And I then thought, well, it's time to go into sales, a real proper grown-up sales job. And then for the next 7 years, I was selling a desktop viewing software called QuickView Plus to the likes of Shell, Met Police, oh gosh, who else? UBS Warburg. So I was enterprise sales for quite some time, for direct sales and winner of president's clubs and all that sort of shebang. It was lovely. I got to buy my first house with it. I got to buy myself a convertible car. I did so well over that time that I realised that was my forte now, that sales was the route to my career path was sort of heading that way. I guess that's where I was enjoying it all.
Well, I feel like the cold calling days, that's also how I came through back in the day. But absolutely brutal. But it teaches you so much. I mean, I don't know if you were the same, but there's a lot of people like my generation who won't even pick up a phone. They genuinely couldn't. And I remember being absolutely petrified to even pick a phone up because we were all texting generation. Do you know what I mean? So it was pretty intense. But it's meant that you discovered that you had a talent for this and obviously beat everybody in the team so quickly, which is fantastic. Do you think for you, the motivation was because obviously it's always so lovely to get the pat on the back and the recognition? Obviously the finances is decent, but is it just because you like to be the top of your game and you've got that competitive edge? Do you think that's the...
I think it is. I think you find what motivates you. And motivation in life, whatever you do in life, is really important. It's finding what really makes you tick. And I think the motivation for me, not just from a monetary aspect and everything else to being on top, but it's the thrill, it's the seeking of winning, it's being a good person through it. It's everything wrapped together, I think, that how it motivates me back then and also today in my life, as you know, what I do with Cosmos and also what I do in my personal life. And that's really where I think, it's not, you don't have to be at the top of the game, everything in personal life, but you know what, it's just about being able to feel, what's the word? Probably feel, it makes you feel content. There's a contentment that comes with it. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it, and how I love to be in sales and do what I'm doing today.
Yeah. And I think it's a space as well with sales is that you can, the people who do the best in the industry are always authentically themselves.
100%.
Like you you're not just there to win a quick buck, as the term would say. You're there to actually provide the best service for the customer, because it gives you that satisfaction, and that's where you get your thrill from. I mean, recruitment, in my eyes, it is sales, because you are essentially selling a product, which is awful to say, that you actually can't control. So if anything, it's harder than selling software in some regards. So I definitely understand everything you're saying there. And it's great. I mean, you did branch off from that initial career path, didn't you? So can you tell us a little bit more about the transitions and what has influenced you through your career, I guess?
Yeah, so I guess from, touching from a marketing, then get into direct sales. And direct sales, I was there for a long time. So finally, I survived about 4 acquisitions with that business. I seem to be the only one, seem to be hanging on every time with an acquisition, which I was.
That's impressive, because sales is always the first out the door when everyone's boxed. They're the most expensive.
That's why I realised they need me, because I need to just keep doing what I'm doing. But finally, there was an acquisition with Oracle, and Oracle, said they made a lot of people redundant, and I was actually pregnant at the time, to be fair. So I guess in a sense it was quite good timing, because not only did I have a decent payout, but also it was timing where I was about to give birth in 3-4 months' time. So ultimately, it gave me that break to be able to spend time with my newborn 18 years ago now, but also to have a reflection on where and what I wanted to do next. And I think sometimes these things in life, we always, although they seem quite severe or, sudden, it does take you a change in pathway in your life. And it's actually looking at it as a new direction, a new challenge, and actually something to sort of like embrace and move forward with. So after that, I guess being a new mum, not sure if I wanted to go back into sales to that degree, that high level sales, because obviously
it's intense. It's so intense,
absolutely, and it takes a lot out of you. There's a lot of pressure, but I did, and this is really where I sort of found the opportunity, and I got the opportunity to, although I did have my own business for a little bit and I was a consultant, but I went into Microsoft, and that's where my door opened into this amazing world and community that we all work and live and breathe in right now. And it was from Microsoft that really springboarded not only the channel sales, but bringing my knowledge from selling, but also my ability to be able to build trusted partnerships, have that credibility, but also the trust within that network. So people would then trust you with what you're bringing to them as a product across the board. And that's really where I jumped into the Dynamics team, the small little Dynamics team at the time it was. We were a little branch of Microsoft with Elena. That's just where I met Elena. And we worked together there. And it was just suddenly like, who would have known where and what it would have taken me to now. And I think that's what's so exciting, isn't it, about life?
Was it just the BC, or was it the wider whole, the Dynamics products? Was this like before they merged them, or was it before it was even called Dynamics? All the rebrands.
The ones before the different names. So this was like old school. This was like CRM, as we still call it to a degree. Nav, which is obviously Dynamics Nav, and also AX, which we now know is known as lots of other things, but F&O.
It's supply chain management. But to me, it's a lot Exacta, AX. Or F&O,
absolutely. It's always a tricky one to know what's called next. But I looked after the key partners within Microsoft at the time for those 3 product lines. So back then, Microsoft used to manage partners. So I would do business plan meetings. A lot of the partners I work with today, actually, they'd come into Microsoft. We'd work through, how we were going to be able to drive growth and revenue across, certainly those 3 key platforms. And really sort of, that's how I built my channel experience across while working in with the team. It was only after Microsoft that it was QBS actually, or Companion as we know today, really then took on all the management of all the partners to be able to transact or any licensing through from a NAV or Business Central perspective, and also CRM, etc., as a CSP tier 2. So that's where I came in and worked with the all greatest Mr. McKinty, Will McKinty, who I know the whole Dynamics channel knows very well, very good friend, dear friend and dear mentor of mine. And and I joined him as his sort of number 2 when he was just getting the QBS off the ground. And really I was there for 4 years really to grow that channel again, and been able to sort of drive growth for those partners. also bringing ISV products as well, which is where my tapping into the ISV world sort of comes in, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic, obviously, because as you said, Microsoft used to directly manage the partners, but
yes,
now the distributors exist, and they obviously, for the BC side, handle a lot of those relationships, which is fantastic. And you were there, an OG companion, which is class.
Yes, I know. I was there at the beginning. We were there at the start. It was, though. It's a great time. Although, it's obviously a challenge for a lot of the partners because, again, major changes. They've always been used to being going directly through Microsoft. So then it was like, wow, why have we got to go now indirectly through to another company? But I think, like everything, once they realised the value that we were offering and also been able to have the support that maybe they weren't necessarily getting from Microsoft because Microsoft didn't have the capacity or the resources to do that, then actually it meant that there was this whole new amazing company that could actually support the partners in a much better and more confidently way. And that was a great time actually working those 4 years and and obviously growing the channel and getting to know everybody that I know today across the sort of the industry.
Yeah, because the distributors, they do add that extra personal approach because they have more time. They do have that capacity to build those relationships, which is class. I mean, moving through Companial, I know that because obviously we discussed that you went to college, but you didn't necessarily go down the university route. I think there's a lot of pressure from, I mean, you'll from your network as well, you'll know hundreds of people who haven't necessarily gone down the degree route as well.
Yes.
But is there anything that you could say to those people, because you ended up working for Microsoft and then you ended up one of those distributors doing so well in your career, fantastic, and you don't have a degree? So is there anything that or what's your perspective on that really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And I think there's always the open debate out there of what people believe, depending on where and what they've done or achieved to date. I mean, I'm a firm believer that I guess young people don't have to have a university degree to be successful. Obviously talking from my own experience, my husband is a successful business owner. In fact, I know a lot of my friends who own successful businesses never went down the university route. So it does mean that, you can forge a successful career and a career path without having to have a degree under your belt. I do feel for, I think, youngsters who do feel that maybe they need to take this path because either society or their parents expect them to do so. And maybe if you're not looking for a career that needs specifically that education behind it, then it is, they're putting themselves at a risk to the point that they will be in debt when they come out. They're going to have to pay off that. Yeah. And it's a huge impact, as you know, you're nodding away going,
it's like, savage.
It is savage, exactly. And so I think, with apprentice schemes now and management programs out on the market and so many opportunities to be able to get in there, that I think, the world's the oyster and it doesn't necessarily have to be, down the university route. And that's just my, personal opinion on that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have, even though I went to university, and what I learned about uni was obviously the ability to learn independently. And then my degree is history and political science. And now I work in sales and technology. So you tell me. But I mean, I'm very passionate about diversity and dynamics and all those things. So I guess it can fall into that with the politics side. But it is quite interesting. But I really appreciate you saying that, because the apprenticeship route, I know there's a lot of partners out there who are hiring at this level. Like one of the girls I know through the IMCP network, like it's mental. Like she's literally 21 years old and she's hiring an entire team of apprentices who are only 16. I mean, but you guys at Cosmos, do you have any specific strategy around those for the future as you guys grow, or?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I love to bring young people into the industry. I mean, for us right now, we're only literally just 2 years in. So for us, we are just starting off in that sense. But when I was at QBS or Companial, I ran a sort of like it was called the Gen Z program, actually. It was about trying to bring new, fresh blood into the channel. And I know I've got some, amazing partners that I work with who do have a great apprentice programs out there at the moment who have really been able to take that on board and been able to get behind it with the technical know-how and the training. You guys are obviously bringing new youngsters in there and bring them into the industry, which is brilliant. And so I think, if we get to that point, that would be an absolute 100%. I would love to bring someone in. Yeah, absolutely. Because I love about just being able to, mold people, but being able to give people that sort of starting point, a really good strategic know-how starting point, and not feeling that they're thrown in the deep end sometimes, where some companies maybe would do so. So but watch this space as we're growing. Imogen.
Yeah, class. I mean, now we're talking about Cosmos. Obviously, you've got your wonderful background as well. So tell everybody a little bit about you, because you started Cosmos with zero investment, and you obviously backed yourself, and you capitalized on what you brought to the table, right? So from your own investment. So tell me and the viewers a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, I guess if I just, before the Cosmos part, I went and joined a company that was a big corporate company, silly salary, thought it was going to be amazing, realized very quickly that it wasn't, left there without a job to go to, never done that in my life, and then had a year out. And then it was like, okay, I want to do something for me now. I want to do something. And I've always wanted to run my own business, but I never knew what it was going to be. And then after leaving another well-known reporting tool in the market, and also some of the guys who used to work in the US had left there. They set up a company called Cosmos, as we know today, 3-4 years ago. And that was really about, bringing in, and just to give you a little idea of what Cosmos is, it's a super fast, easy to use cloud reporting and analytics solution, built entirely from the ground up for Business Central SaaS. So as I mentioned, it was founded by some ex-colleagues of us that we used to work with, who realized, very like us, that there was a gap in the market to be able to provide Business Central users this super improved, faster and more reliable solution that aligns with their Business Central investment. And I always had a passion for reporting after working for the company before. So I saw this opportunity and went, right, you know what, if we can take this to the UK and Irish market, then let's do it. So I knocked on my old colleague, Rob Jackson's virtual door and said, Rob, leave your job. You need to come and join me for this exciting venture. And he was like, what? You're mad, Fiona. What are you doing? And anyway, to roll on, sort of 2 years near enough to the day, we signed up in June 23 the exclusive distributor for UK and Ireland for Cosmos. In fact, we signed up on my dad's 80th birthday. This is always going to be memorable for me. So I was away at the time when we literally did the DocuSign. So it was a special moment. And it has, it's obviously been challenging, as it would do with any startup. I never thought, I always knew it'd be challenging. You just never know what roadblocks you come against and what ones you got to overcome by. We had a lot of sleepless nights, but now we're sleeping again now. But the great thing is we've got this successful company that is growing. And the best part is it's really down to the thanks of our partners. Obviously, as I mentioned, I've been working this channel a long time. I've built some really good, trusted relationships and people who, know that we're not only trustworthy as people, but also we have a really good solution behind us. And I think seeing and believing and us getting to where we are now 2 years in, it's very exciting to not only being able to put our own investment in and now being able to have that out, but also not having to rely on any external investment to get us off the ground. So I think we probably don't pat ourselves on the back enough sometimes, but you know what, I'm always about celebrate small wins and big wins, and sometimes I forget to do it myself, but that's what happens, doesn't it?
How are you finding running your own business? So obviously there's hurdles and things like that. Do you get the satisfaction that you previously were getting when you were working the roles before?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's better in so many ways. I think working in the corporate industry for a long time, and I just got to a point that I'm a bit long in the tooth for this. I've done it. I've got the T-shirt. It's hard work. It's you're a number, not a name. And I think I just realised that's not what I want to be anymore. I've got a lot to bring to the table. I've got to shed loads of motivation still. I'm driven. I never sit still, even only at the moment with a bad leg, but I'm not really sitting still. I was even working the day after my operation and on the operation day in the hospital ward while I was doing it. So you know what? I think that's the love. But I would have done that for another company if I was employed. So I knew I would be able to bring that same criteria to running my own company as well. And that's what I love about it. It's fulfilling, it's fun, it's great to work with a channel, and obviously, you know, being able to work, you know, and drive sales as well, and bring an awesome product to the market that, you know, our partners and our customers in particular are really, really loving. And I think that's the best thing. Something that everybody sees a benefit in it and makes people's lives easier. And I think that's the thing. That's a key thing about life.
And I suppose you'll get the pride of that, even though you might have had that previously when you're working for the other businesses. It's like, this is actually the product that I'm promoting myself. It's my business. Like, I personally am making the impact on these lives, on the companies, on the processes. And you get to see your, I always forget the phrase, I always say it wrong, the fruits of your labour. Is that the right
fruits of labour, that's it. Exactly. It's exactly that.
But you genuinely do, don't you? So I guess, would you say that that's the main thing that's inspiring you to keep ticking even with a broken leg?
I know, absolutely. I think it is. Although, you know, I haven't had any time off this year, and although I was going to have some time off, and then I did my ankle in, haven't really had any time off. I had part of my birthday off, and that's about it this year. So, but you know what? It's okay. And I think that's the thing. I think you realise when you do have your own business, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. But what the sacrifices weigh out what the pleasure and the fun and what you get out of having your own business. I mean, there's no means feat. It's not easy. But I also say that just take the risk. If you're ever sitting on the fence and you wonder, when's it going to be a good time? Should I have more money in the bank? Should I do this? Sometimes you just maybe wait too long and it never happens. And I'm always like, you know, I'm not the biggest risk taker, but I always knew I wanted to do it. And I always thought if I have a motto in life: regret the things that you don't do, but don't regret the things you have done. And I think in that sense, I had to do it just to know if it didn't work, it wasn't failure, it's because I tried, and you can walk away. And I think that was the best way to sort of look at things in life. I think just get out there and give everything a go once at least.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree. I mean, I just think that's so important. Thank you so much for sharing that, because
I'm
mindful that is the heading for the podcast. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be the 365 pod. I know that we've spoken about this a little bit before when we spoke in person, but about AI. Who would have thought?
We love AI, don't we?
Yeah. So I was just going to ask, as a business owner, you know, as an organisation that's growing very successfully, and then on a personal level, how do you use AI to make your life better in a way?
Well, who doesn't love a bit of ChatGPT, Imogen? I mean, literally. In fact, my husband loves it so much since I really introduced it to him. He built a photo of me while I was in hospital in bed with me with a broken ankle on one of the photo things, although it ended up coming in with a left leg, not a right leg. So I was like, I'm not using that on LinkedIn or anything. You can keep that one. but yeah, no, I mean, putting that aside.
Around a few WhatsApp group chats that I imagine.
Exactly. But I guess on a serious note, I mean, I think our AI, I see it as a bit of your sanity checker, and I love that. It used to be like when you used to be in an office back in the day over 10 years ago, and you'd ask that clever person in the corner to just check the things you were thinking of, or does this sound right? Now you've got that clever person whenever you want it at any time. Yeah. And I think for that, it not only, you know, just it drives productivity. I mean, makes my life so much easier. Mm-hmm. And I think and also the creativity. I'm not particularly creative, but I have to do a lot of my own marketing or bits and pieces. So I use that as just a creative spin, or I put something together that sounds horrible and I put it into ChatGPT and it makes it sound so much better. And I think, from a personal perspective, using it all the time at the moment about how quickly does an ankle, with 5 pins and 2 plates take to recover, through to how to do a marketing content plan or something like that. I use it from both sides of the coin, and I think from that side is great. From a co-pilot and agent's perspective, I think this is the way everything is going, isn't it? It's revolutionising how every user is going to work today. Yeah. And I think, I think from a business aspect as well, from us, that financial and analytic reporting, certainly within Business Central, AI is really translating that complex data that quite often financial teams are having to make it really easy to understand, doesn't it? And summarises that whole, information that key stakeholders need to make really that faster data-driven decisions. And we're so pleased that we've got AI built into our product in Cosmos. It's called Captain Cosmos. He's very cool. And he's there to be able to help users with building reports, if they want to know how to add filters, if they just generally get stuck with building their reports. We have an immense knowledge base and an AI agent effectively to help users with that whole build method. So all very exciting, and lots more to come with Cosmos as well. We've got a brand new release coming up and the spring release coming up next month. So watch this space.
Watch this space. I mean, that's mint. I love Captain Cosmos. What a fun thing. But I think that's with AI, it can just help you get out any brain fogs that you've had. So obviously because majority of us work from home now, it's hard to, when you have an idea, to bounce the idea off somebody. So you're so right in saying that it is like the clever colleague that you don't have to pester anymore, which is class. I mean, obviously you guys are using it so well to enhance productivity and all of that, which is great for your customer base. It's yourself and Rob. Is there anything else within the Copilot that you have planned, or can you actually disclose anything with the spring, how it will be different with spring release?
Well, from a new release, obviously we'll be announcing all those new features coming up. We're just finalising the sector, finalising everything out. But it's bigger, brighter, and better. Awesome and just amazing. So we've got lots to come on that. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I think AI is just constantly developing, and we're very aware as Cosmos US and just generally where AI is taking taking users today, and you have to be on the end game. You've got to be there, and you've got to be able to bring that into your software solutions to be able to just give everyone that best experience that they're already having with Microsoft's Copilot and everything else that they're using. So agreed. You kind of have to AI first, right? Is the terminology being thrown around at the minute, and then you've got to have that stay competitive. So if an organization doesn't necessarily invest in AI, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Because absolutely,
I saw a really interesting summarization is that AI is essentially when the calculator was invented. It's basically the same thing, because obviously there's a lot of do you know what I mean, in the sense that we will use it every single day. You won't even have to think about it. And now I guess with exams and everything, obviously there's a whole uni issue, schools, everything, but now we just have to change the exams and the way that's worked to integrate it like we did with the calculator.
I know it is crazy. I mean, my son says now, they can't do, university students, doing your dissertation, you could use AI and get everything you need. But now it's they've got to be careful. And although it's amazing to be able to bring that information in, it's very easy for students to be able to just drop it in and hope for the best. And so I think it's very challenging in lots of industries.
I feel sorry for them. I always feel sorry for them, because I'm like, if I was at uni now, I wouldn't have researched my dissertation. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Which is awful to say, but I'm very self-aware. You know what I mean? I like to be efficient. So
but why would you? You think if I've got it there, it's too tempting not to use it, and also to learn a little bit from it. To go, well, actually, maybe I should bring this into my exam or dissertation or whatever it is, assignments. But it is. It's challenging, I think, for a certain from an education perspective. But I think from embracing it from a business perspective, don't be scared of it. Get involved. You know what, it will change. It will change lots of lives, I think, on how we work, which is so all for it.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, one of the things as well that you'll know from watching our other podcasts is about, we always end the pod with a bit of we're big on turning negatives into positives as our business. Obviously, Elena, she's incredibly good at looking at things from such a positive perspective. Yes. And so we like to turn failures, we don't like that word, but into something positive. So can you share with our listeners, you're not allowed to say the ankle, all right, either a personal or professional, what could be tokened as a failure, and how you've actually turned that into a success, even though we know it's not a failure, but any examples that you'd like to share?
Yes. So what have I turned into a failure? Oh, gosh, it's a good question, actually. Let me have a think. What have I turned into a failure? I guess one of the things that comes to mind, I was headhunted for a senior role not so long ago, offered me amazing salary, benefits package, everything that you couldn't refuse. I was like, yeah. I think it was apparent within a few months that it was not the role for me. It was oversold to me, and there was zero opportunity to drive growth within there. And for me, being a motivated person, I wanted to be able to do my best, and I knew I would be able to do that within that role. So basically, after very long hours working as well, I decided to leave there. And I think I just mentioned earlier in the podcast that I left there with no job to go to.
Yeah.
So for that, it was a professional failure, because I think I always look at not necessarily a failure. It was a failure maybe at the time of picking the wrong job at the wrong time. And that could have been looked as a failure. But I think the failures you can always turn into a positive. And the positive was that I took this year out. It gave me time for my mental health. I was suffering by that point, heavily corporate overload for many years. That was just probably the tipping. It was a tipping point to me to say, you know what, I'm worthy, and I'm not worthy staying in the type of job I am to myself or even to my family and friends. And so the positive was that, I had the time out. I spent more, I had headspace. And then I started Cosmos all within that sort of year. So I think that is probably my strongest failure to success, I would probably say, as a transition in the last 3 years that I've gone through. And so I think there's always a silver lining.
Yes,
around the
definitely.
corner. So,
agreed. And I think that's like a perfect way to end the podcast, because that's such a positive way, because it is everything you can turn around that isn't great. Yes. You will learn from that situation, and then you can just make. I was going to say the quote, but my brain's blank already. I mean, just because obviously you experience everything, Fiona, in the industry, obviously you've seen the dynamics world grow from the beginning, essentially, when you were at Microsoft. Do you have any final thoughts or advice or anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I guess, final thoughts. I mean, generally, as a final thoughts as a person, I always say, be kind to yourself. Always really important.
Love that.
Celebrate the small and big wins, although I just told myself off because I sometimes don't, but I should. Yeah. And one of my favourite mottos, you treat others the way you wish to be treated, because I always think that respect, kindness, empathy will never go out of fashion. It is so important to be able to do that. And also, as I mentioned, don't be afraid to take risks. I've made plenty good and bad ones over the years, believe me. But I think that's what defines you as true growth, and never to look at it as failure. So,
I actually love that. Thank you so much, Fiona. I really, really appreciate your time, given the ankle situation, and I hope everything.
My dodgy leg.
Yeah, your dodgy leg. Good luck with the recovery and everything. And I know that I'll probably speak to you in a couple of weeks' time anyway. But thank you so much, and enjoy the sun if you manage to wheel yourself out in that.
I will try and wheel myself out, or I'll crutch it out. One of the two things.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Thanks really for having me, Imogen. Lovely to see
Fiona.
you. Bye.